Ready to go? Okay. Hello, on behalf of the Textiles Fashion Group, I would like to thank you all for joining us tonight. A special thank you to the Bragg team for putting this together. For those of you who may not be familiar with TFG, it's the parent company to 5 brands: Just Fab, Fab Kids, Shoe Dazzle, Fabletics, and Savage X Fenty. All are direct-to-consumer, digitally native brands centered around a membership goal. My name is Jerry Sawyer, and I'm the VP of Diversity and Inclusion. So my job is to create an inclusive environment within the company. I joined the company about 3 months ago, and I can honestly say there was a great culture already in place, and we're working to make that even better. One of the ways we are doing that is participating in events like today to make sure we are on the radar of the type of talent associated with Bragg. I'm excited to introduce you to some of my fellow team members who represent various job functions across our brands that will be participating in tonight's panel. Before I do that, I just want to acknowledge that we also have our Senior Director of Talent Acquisitions on the call, Maggie Fox. Maggie was instrumental in putting this together. So now to the panelists. First, we have Christiane Pendarvis, the Co-President, Chief Merchandising and Design Officer for Savage X Fenty. Daria Burke, Chief Marketing Officer of Just Fab. Aya Diaz, Associate Content Producer at Shoe Dazzle. Mabel Frias, Director of Site Merchandising for Savage X Fenty. Christopher Van Ness, Social Media Strategist for Savage X Fenty. Each will speak to you about their career journeys and experience working at Textile. So with that, I would like to introduce our moderators for tonight, the co-presidents of Bragg, Sean Otler and Nicole Coakley Dunlap. Thank you both for the partnership, and I will let the two of you take it from here.
Thanks, Jerry, and welcome everyone to tonight's Bragg Textile event. We're really excited that you can join us. Thank you, Textile, for this wonderful opportunity to engage with our members and our Bragg audience, and to share in this great conversation. So we won't spend a lot of time in kicking off. We just really want to get into the questions. So if you're all ready, we'll just jump right in. So Nicole, before I get started, I just want to say I'm Sean Outler, co-president of Bragg.
Hi, Nicole Coakley Dunlap.
So I'm going to start and kick us off. So this question I'm going to pose to everyone on our panel tonight. And the first question is, tell us about your career journey and your current role. Christiane, do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Sean. Nice to meet everyone. As Jerry said, I'm Christiane Pendarvis, and I'm the co-president and chief merchandising and design officer for Savage X Fenty, a job that I am incredibly thankful and proud to have for an amazing, amazing brand. And, you know, my career journey is probably fairly typical for people that work in retail. I started my career in the department store arena way back in the day, straight out of college, working for Neiman Marcus department stores as an assistant buyer, which was a fun place to work, I have to say, other than the fact that I didn't make enough money to afford to buy anything at Neiman Marcus at the time, but it was still nice to be in the stores and see all that beautiful product. And I really spent most of my career going up through the merchandising ranks. I did go back and get an MBA, which is probably a little bit unusual for people that work in retail. And I did a brief stint in brand management with Procter & Gamble, but I found my roots back to retail. And I think for those of us who have been in the business for a long time, it's sort of in your blood. And actually, when I was leaving Neiman Marcus, my divisional vice president at the time told me, it's either in your blood or it's not, and it wasn't my blood. And the thing that I've always loved about retail is I get a report card every single day. So I come in on a Monday or, you know, Tuesday, whatever day, and I see exactly what did we sell yesterday. And now that I'm in direct to consumer, I can see what did I sell last hour, right? So there's an incredible amount of information and data, and that has always driven me. My journey has really been about running a business. And running a business in product categories that I really love and enjoy. So I went back into retail after leaving P&G, working for some of the big specialty players. So I was at Gap, Victoria's Secret, Aerie, running as chief merchant officer for that division as they were embarking on expanding stores. And then about 7 years ago, I moved over into e-commerce and direct to consumer, which I have to say was like learning a brand new language, quite frankly. You know, I didn't know what a consumer shopping funnel was because I had really been responsible for running the store side of the business for most of my career. And I have to say, I love it. Incredible amount of information and data that you get when you're working in a direct to consumer side. And all of that has really ultimately led to the role that I'm in, because I, grew up in merchandising, so know how to develop product and product assortments, worked in intimate apparel for, 2 of the bigger intimate brands in the country today, and then made a transition into direct to consumer. So all of those things have really led me to the role that I'm in now, which is a fantastic role. Savage is an amazing brand. It's amazing to be a part of building out a brand that has such a really strong purpose and a strong vision for what we're trying to accomplish. It's still very early on, so there's a lot of work to do, but that's really what I find incredibly exciting, is being able to solve the puzzle. It's not something that's been written yet for us, and that's what makes this role really exciting.
Thanks, Christiane. So it sounds like you've been on quite the journey in retail and a little beyond. So thank you very much. Daria.
Thank you. It's funny. I was listening to Cap, and I think where our careers are probably the most similar is that she had a stint in brand marketing and I had a stint in the merchant world. I actually I've been a career marketer, although I didn't start in beauty, fashion, or retail. I started in the architecture and interior design industry. So my decision to go to business school 100 years ago was really predicated on my desire to make that switch into this industry and market to women. It's something that I naturally really was always drawn to and loved. And so I started my career out of NYU Stern, where I got my MBA in beauty at L'Oreal, and spent a number of years there working in their Luxe division on Lancome and on YSL. And I think that's when I was really bitten by the digital bug. And I started to see art and science really come together in digital marketing. And so, being a traditional brand marketer, but having that data that Christiane, I'm going to try not to call you Kat, but what Christiane talks about is, was really exciting to imagine how I could in real time pivot a message or a creative expression to react to the customer's behavior. And as a result, my career, I've sort of shoelaced through organizations and roles like Rent the Runway, where I was number 10 at the company, to Estee Lauder, to CVS, where I was working in a merchant organization as the head of beauty and personal care strategy, and bringing all of that experience as a manufacturer and in luxury to, a place like CVS that was all about retail at scale. And then doing that in a very different way at Facebook, where I would say I became even more fluent in performance marketing and was able to develop an even stronger rigor and understanding of customer acquisition, and how do you do that to drive both online and offline acquisition. And I think in that way, this combination of experiences that I've had really led to this point in my career as the chief marketing officer of Just Fab, because my scope now is very much representative of that range of experiences outside of direct or brick and mortar retail. But the rest of it really is, on one hand, all around generating global brand awareness for Just Fab. So much of my time this past year has been spent reimagining the brand, giving it a new voice, a new visual signature. We turned 10, and so that landscape has changed. The customer has evolved, and so we need to kind of go along with her. So we're in very different places than a brand like Savage X Fenty, for example, where I'm using a lot of those skills as a builder, but doing so with a very real, existing business in mind and an existing customer base, right? And we can talk about what that means. And then on the other side of that, and so that, that side of the house is the brand awareness, it's brand marketing. It's, for us, it's creative and PR and, social, organic. And then on the other side of that, around performance, really is the data. It's where I have acquisition and our influencer marketing, which is actually very heavily driven through media and very quant heavy as a result, as well as CRM and site merchandising. So it really is a balanced role. And I get to show up every day and think about storytelling in, its purest form. And especially now when we're all at home and everyone's that much more captive of an audience, right? And so how do you, in real time, down to the hour, understand how every story that you're putting out there, whether it's about the versatility of our assortment or the comfort or the fit or just the overall style, what's resonating with her and where is she excited and, to come into the brand and become a member. So it's a lot of fun to get to do that. And I would say that I am definitely the case study in probably the more nonlinear career trajectory and path. But nonetheless, I think it's been a great sort of culmination of experiences.
Thank you. So I am going to ask you to go next, then Christopher and Marbell, but just kind of keep it tight. So let's go.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And I'm so excited to talk tonight. My career has been short so far. I just graduated from Loyola Marymount University in 2018. So my whole career has been at Textile and with Shoe Dazzle. I had 2 internships at Textile. One was in PR, and then another was on our studio production team. And from there, I went into freelance position. I went full time and then moved on to our social media team where I am now. And as associate content producer, my job is really creating our content that goes live across all of our social channels, and just really staying in touch with our customer and having that touch point with her every day, and continuing to use analytics to just get closer and closer to what she's looking for, and showing her our best product. So that's a little bit about my career.
Great, thank you. So a little bit different than everyone else. So Christopher?
Yes, hey guys, happy to be participating in this and thank you all for watching. I actually never thought I would be working in retail, in the retail experience or with clothing by any means, or the fashion industry at all. I was going to be Kendall Jenner's publicist and that was it. If I wasn't Kendall Jenner's publicist, I was not working and I would be unemployed under a bridge in LA. Well, that's almost happened, but I ended up doing consumer PR, and that kind of took me to Chicago. I'm from Detroit, took me to Chicago, New York, and Texas. And living in Texas, that actually got me into the social media space. And I started exploring that just a little bit more. It was a little bit more fun, honestly, for lack of a better term. You had more creative opportunities as well in social media. And then I knew that I needed to be in Los Angeles anyway. This was the market if I wanted to ever be Kendall Jenner's publicist, because that was still in the back of my mind. And after moving out here and after working in social media as a publicist, because at this time now you're seeing the evolution of both public relations and social media, they all go hand in hand now, because you are representing a person or a brand or whoever that entity may be, but there are multiple channels to do this. And that really got me more involved into the entertainment side of social media, working for huge brands or, celebrities and people. And then when this job opened up to me, it was obviously a no-brainer. I never thought I'd work for a lingerie company, but it's owned by the queen herself. And I have so much respect for the company when, even just during the interview process and how it flowed, and the people who I work with and just the opportunities available. I've worked here for about 1 year and 8 months, and Kendall, I'm so sorry, but maybe later I'll see you.
Love it, love it. Marbell?
Hello, my name is Mabel. I've been with the company now for 1 year in November. So coming up on my first anniversary, I started my career at Macy's Home Store in the executive training program, and then found my way through a series of high growth startups, One Kings Lane, Violet Gray. Then I went back to a department store at Nordstrom, and now I'm here at Savage. So I love what I do. When I think about what my job is really a perfect blend of art and science, meaning we have two partners, or we're responsible for two relationships. The first relationships are internal relationships, meaning we collaborate heavily with marketing, brand marketing, acquisition marketing, merchandising, and also our product and technology teams to bring ideas or really bring to life functionalities. And then we also have the relationship with the customer, meaning really leveraging data and insights, or partnering with other teams that really weigh on really heavily, like our insights team, to see what is our expected user behavior, where is she coming from on the site, and where is she clicking, and really delivering that insight back to our partners so that they can plan better.
Thank you. So you all have very unique and really interesting career paths, and really exciting, and congratulations on all your success thus far. I'm sure there's so much more to come, especially at Textile. Do you have a clear path of succession planning or growth model for your employees? And would love to hear just maybe an example of what's happening on your teams, maybe something you can share. And Christian, I'll start with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the things that's great about Textile, right? Because we're a business that builds and incubates brands. And, they're at different stages of life and growth and development. And therefore, the opportunities within our brands are ever evolving and changing. And so, at a business like Savage, where when we first started, a little over 2 years ago, very, very small teams. Now we've grown and we have, over 100 employees just dedicated to Savage, and we'll continue to scale and grow that as the business grows. I say that because a theme around Textile is about opportunity. Because the businesses are growing so fast, there are always new needs that may not have been there 6 months or 12 months ago. And there's someone that on my team who I'd love to highlight. She unfortunately couldn't be here on this call today, but she's my vice president of production and sourcing. So she really works very closely with all of our factories overseas to make sure that we can get our goods on time and at the quality level that we expect. She's been with Textile now almost 8 years. She started out as a coordinator. So she came in as a coordinator working on Fabletics, pretty early on during Fabletics time. And over the course of almost 8 years, she actually has been at a vice president level now, I think for probably about 2 years. So over the course of 6 years, advanced all the way to vice president, moving up in ranks on the Fabletics business. So taking on production roles where she was really in the details with the vendor base around getting our product produced. And then spending time overseas with the manufacturers, leading sourcing strategy, and got promoted into the role when she moved over from Fabletics to Savage. And I think she's a great example. When she started at Textile, there was no vision around Savage yet. That didn't exist. Fabletics was still relatively early and new in its growth. And so there ended up being lots of opportunity for her even within that. But then the ability to take on a brand new category that she'd not worked on, which is very complicated from a sourcing perspective, she was given that opportunity because she had proven herself in her role for Fabletics. So I think that's one thing that if you take anything away from Textile, because we're still so young, because our brands are growing and scaling at such a rapid pace, the roles within the company, the opportunities within the company are ever evolving and changing, which makes it a really exciting and fun place to be. And we're looking for people who just want to roll up their sleeves and get the work done. That is part of our mantra. We're not so structured and hierarchical that you're going to be limited in terms of what you can do. We look for great ideas where they come from anywhere. And if someone can prove that they can deliver, we're just going to give you more. Be careful what you signed up for.
Great. That sounds like a great example. Aya, I know I think you just got promoted. Anything to share from your story?
Yes, I think definitely as far as there being a clear path of succession, I think that a lot of people that I know, including myself, there hasn't really been like, this is the first thing you'll do and then you'll do this. And I think that's our strength as Textile. It kind of can be whatever you make of it. And I think, I was fortunate to be on a team for both of my internships at Textile, on the Fab Kids team and then on Shoe Dazzle, with people who were really intentional with the internship programs that they created while I was there. And then also that really believed in me and really pushed me as far as my development. And when there was an opportunity to come on as a freelancer, or when there was an opportunity to be full-time, I feel like they were absolutely there and pushing for me in that way, and have continued to do so and continued to advocate for me. And I think I partly was a little bit stuck in my like school way of thinking, in terms of when I first started, I didn't know how it would be to work in like a corporate environment, and I was very timid to offer my opinion, because I expected there to be a lot of hierarchy. But I think I've learned that that's really not the case here, and I've always been told that, you know, no matter what your position, your opinion and your perspective is really valued. And I think that's 100% the truth. And that has been what has enabled me to grow and encourage me on my path thus far. And yeah, even in my recent promotion and the move that I made from the production team to our social media team, I just felt really encouraged and supported by all the teams that I've touched so far.
Lovely. Thank you. Now I'm going to hand it over to Nicole.
So Aya, congratulations again on your promotion, and perfect segue as we tee up this next question. What are you doing as an organization to actively ensure that everyone feels included? And I'm going to throw this one to Christopher and then Mabel.
Sure. So coming into a company as large as Textile, overall, I think there's about 850, probably more at this point, employees. And when we were in the office, you know, you are a small fish in a huge ocean. You don't know anyone. You've only met the people through the interviewing process, or if you were referred by a friend. Fortunately, I was, so I knew at least one person. But the company just as a whole did, I mean, in my first week there, we were doing an event at in our common area that encouraged everyone to come hang out, eat food, you know, have a drink, meet and talk. And I believe it was actually, it was a Cinco de Mayo event, if I'm not mistaken. So that already right there had everyone, you know, loosened up, and everyone was very welcoming. And it was just through that event, I met probably like 10 people that I still talk to, you know, obviously. But they're not even in my department, but we just became like the best of friends. And then the next month, there was a different event that encouraged participation. Within Savage X Fenty, we have started something called the Culture Crew, which is a group of about 10 of us, and Mabel will talk a little bit more on it, but you know, it's our job to make sure that people are still having fun, they're not getting burnt out, they have the support they need on a more, like outside of your direct boss, but you know, putting on fun events, if we're hiring new people, making sure that they feel included and they feel welcome, having 30 by 30s, which is what we call our meetings when you first start. You know, you're encouraged to meet with 30 people for 30 minutes, get to know them, because who knows, you just might learn something, or if anything, you just have a new friend or someone who you can reach out to with any questions if you don't want to go to your direct boss or anything like that. So it's just those little initiatives that really make a big difference, because it can be intimidating starting at such a big company. And sometimes it can be intimidating, even if it's a small company, to just talk to someone. You know, it's especially if they already have built that relationship with each other. If it's a team and you're one, you know, you're the new guy coming in. So, you know, just through those little initiatives, they really make a big difference. And I think we've done an incredible job doing it and are continuing to grow on it even more, even with this.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
And to echo what Christopher is saying about the culture crew, that I think is so different and special from other culture crews I've joined in other organizations, there's actually a real budget. So there's a budget for fun. So the company actually puts their money where their mouth is in terms of like really supporting to make sure that we have all these ideas, but we have, you know, we have to negotiate on the budget, but at least there's monies to make it kind of come to life and consistently. Other things that the company does, and one of it is a reaction to all this, you know, conversation around BLM and et cetera, was Courageous Conversations. The best way that I can describe what Courageous Conversations is like being part of a family and having to have touchy-feely moments about things that are actually happening in real life. So we've kicked off two with the support with our executive sponsor being Christian, where we really get to talk about what are our experiences as whether it be people of color, women of color, and it's actually been really well received. So I actually appreciate the support to have a company really kind of encourage us to say, hey, there's a lot happening in the social climate. How can we support you as an employee? Because it's something that's personal that obviously will affect your work. So that's been really, really great. And we're evolving those conversations now to include other points of views, right? Not just people of color, but also people who have different perspectives, whether it be Indian or et cetera, really bringing those diverse perspectives to the table. So that's really fun. And another thing that this company does that is really, really cool that you usually don't see at larger organizations is executive leadership chats, which means I think they roll out on a quarterly basis and you get to sign up to spend 30 minutes picking the brains, chatting, catching up with any person on the executive leadership team. So I think those present really great opportunity if you're thinking about your next step, for example, an easy way or a company supported way to get FaceTime. So let's say you can, if you're curious about what's a roadmap on technology, I'm not that curious, but if you are, you can sign up and then the lead will walk you through the entire roadmap. But what I like about it is that it's a very social organization and the leadership actually makes time, whether it be you reach out and they respond or they find formal ways to really get employees who are interested to connect with them.
Wow, so thank you for sharing that. The next question, it sounds like it's going to be an easy one for all of you, and that's if you all could just go around and briefly tell us what you all love about working at Textile.
I'll start. I mean, I think I joined when Mabel did actually about a year ago. And I think the thing that took me then that still very much is part of what I love about Textile is that while we have a portfolio of 5 different brands in the company, each brand is deeply committed to inclusivity. And when we think about how that manifests and reflects in how we show up for our customers, I think that it's really impressive because it's authentic to who we are, and each brand's DNA and how they express it is going to be unique. But to see every brand from Fabletics to Fab Kids, you know, thinking about inclusivity in really important ways and reflecting that in who we partner with, you know, our brand ambassadors and storytellers, how we cast in terms of models and things like that. So I think it's probably one of the things I think is really cool and very unique even for a portfolio company.
Thank you.
I'll go. All
Okay.
right. Honestly, I just love it because it's fun. It's definitely the funnest job I've ever had. The opportunities are honestly incredible. You being able to be at the Savage X Fenty show, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Amazon Prime, check it out, shameless plug. But you know, you're not just handed that opportunity either. You do have to work hard to get there, but it doesn't make it seem like, you know, work or that mundane if you know that one, you're working for something like bigger than you. Like I know that I'm sitting here in my little tiny apartment in downtown LA, but you know, when I pick up my phone, I am speaking on behalf of one of the biggest, most influential like celebrities in the world. You know, our fans don't necessarily know that, they should, but just knowing that, you know, my work is like relevant, my work is important, it affects a lot of people. I think that's probably the coolest thing for me.
Thank you for that. Mabel? Okay.
Yes.
Aya.
I would say 2 things. I think that the way that this company has handled itself during a pandemic and during everything that we've been through this year has been absolutely an example of what other companies should be doing. And it made me so proud. I was already very proud to work here, but it made me even more proud just on how they've cared for us as employees and just really, really asked, like, what do you need? And been really responsive in that way. 3 of my closest friends also work in marketing, and we have our group chat, and we were all texting each other during everything, and they would say, you know, I can't believe what's going on at my company today. And I'm just like, oh, can't relate. Like, you know, Textile has been, you know, just phenomenal. So I think that, and then also just that we have some really, really amazing people that work across all of our brands that I think are incredible people to learn from. And there hasn't been a single day that I haven't learned something new. So.
Well, you've piqued, I'm sure, all of our interests. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Textile did during the pandemic?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like other people might want to chime in as well. But for me, the things that stood out were definitely, protecting all of our jobs. Throughout the industry, it was definitely not common to have layoffs and things like that. And I think that Textile has been phenomenal in terms of just keeping our jobs safe, and then also paying out, bonuses and things like that, continuing to do that and just being really, really transparent with us as far as what's going on and how the business is doing and how it's doing well. And so I've just been really grateful for those things.
Yeah, so sorry, Daria, do you want to add to that? Because I know you played a role in this as well.
Yeah, I think our entire leadership team obviously came together in a lot of the key moments that we've all been experiencing collectively, right? And the first certainly was the pandemic, and the psychological and physical safety of the team was the priority, and I think Aya spoke a lot to that in terms of how we thought about preservation and making sure that folks knew that their jobs were protected and doing everything we could financially to maintain a viable and healthy business, as well as, maintain our employees sort of safety from that perspective. But then obviously we also had to pivot to working from home, which is very difficult to do when you work with merchandise. And, I have photographers and stylists and folks on my team whose sole job is to capture content and to be with each other and with physical product. So I think that's one of the things that we've done and continue to do, right? And we will, at this point in time, be working from home or living at work, however you want to think about it, until it's safe for everyone to go back out. And I think more broadly and especially or even more sort of personal and connected to this group is, in the wake of George Floyd and sort of how that incident created a new level of consciousness for the world. I think that, how we showed up in that moment was something that really was arresting for me and really important. And we did a number of things that I won't try to remember to list them all, but I think one of the most impactful things that we did was we actually went completely dark on Blackout Tuesday. And as an executive leadership team, made the decision that not only would we not run marketing or run advertising and send emails, we actually wouldn't allow customers to transact on the site. And so when I say dark, we were completely dark. And I think that is such a strong signal to the market and to our employees for how we value what's going on in the world and the statement that we wanted to make. And of course, we made significant contributions financially to a number of organizations, just in our side of the world with Just Fab and Shoe Dazzle making a donation to the Legal Defense Fund. We did employee matching for any organization that employees wanted to donate to that was whether it's supporting the fights against racial injustice or, Black Lives Matter specifically. There were lots of funds to help support the legal aid of, the different trials that were going on and things happening with, Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And that's really just a bit of the things that we've done. And so I would say that, showing up for our employees, and I say this a lot, and folks who I work with have heard me say this, it's about showing up for the whole person and not just making sure that their work product is right. And I think that, as a company, Textile really lives that in the ways in which we continue to show up for our employees. And we think about it, we talk about it all the time. It matters a great deal.
Well, thank you. It sounds like you gave us some more insight, but also covered what you actually love as well. So thank you so much for that. Mabel, do you want to go next?
Yes. What I love the most about working here, I think when you think about retail, most jobs tend to have funneled to like really traditional retail organizations in which the representation of who you are as a person and the customer that you're speaking to were not one-to-one. And I didn't realize how much that had an impact in either how I saw myself or how I showed up to work. And, it wasn't until finally working at Savage or even at Textile that I realized, holy moly, like I feel a lot more present and fully expressed now that I'm actually speaking to a woman that is me, or is my friend or my cousin, and bringing that layer of that cultural insight that you've actually gathered your entire life, whether it be, you grew up in Washington Heights or in the Bronx or wherever background you come from, you bring that level of what I call street cred into your job that I actually think is what brings a competitive edge to what makes textile so great. And it's not only just for Savage, but also like Just Fab, like Daria, you're revamping, and now Kelly Rowland is like global head or global face of Just Fab. And with Faboletics, they even had another Kelly Rowland partnership. So I think textile as an organization, in terms of the ambassador community that I work with, is pretty diverse. And you feel really good when you come to work. And you're really, when people are talking about Instagram or whatever, celebrity, you actually, I'm like, oh my God, I know her. And I know that she has 3 dogs and 4 cats. Obviously, you don't need to know that external information, but you don't realize how much your background or understanding of your own culture adds actually a lot of value in working at Textile because of how the organization or their marketing strategy is set out. Another thing that I really love, but it's a love-hate relationship, to be honest, is the model is so different. So I say it's a love-hate relationship because if you're coming from a traditional retail environment, it's really simple. You have an established repeat customer base. So it's like plug and play. Let's keep it going. How do we get these people that know us so well to keep buying from us? Here, it's a little bit different. The model is really rooted on acquisition, acquiring new customers. So really thinking about the customer in those 2 ways. You continuously learn about 2 segments, and you're almost having to balance those 2 things that I think that if you're interested in a challenge, it will certainly keep you on your toes.
Thank you for that. I think the only person we haven't heard from was Cap. I guess I'm calling you Cap now too.
I know that's my nickname around here. My name is long and it's a lot to type that out. So I always use my initials, which is where Cap comes from. But, I think what the theme that I think you've heard from everyone here is that employees matter. And it's sort of like that central theme. Everybody sort of takes a different point of view around how that manifests itself here at Textile. For me, the thing that I saw immediately that I love about this place is how we're treated like smart, responsible, capable adults. And I remember the first week I started, or maybe it was the second week I started, we have a monthly town hall that's total company. So it's everybody across all the brands, across the shared services that support all the brands. And every month we go through financial performance for the company, to all the way down to profit, to how much cash do we have. Like, we share a lot of detailed organizations, right? And I've been at a fairly senior level within organizations, and I was literally blown away. Everybody inside the entire company gets that same information. And so that just gives you a sense of everybody matters. We're all in this together. We all play a very important role in delivering our business results and ultimately what we want to accomplish. And we're going to share all of that information. The level of transparency that I've seen in this company is really second to none that I've ever seen before. And for me, it just reiterates we actually matter. Like, whether you're an intern or you're a freelancer, whether you've been here 5 years or you've been here, 2 days, you're still getting the same kind of access to information and understanding about what's going on at the company. And I think, that sort of point of view around employees matter really stem from our 2 co-founders, but it permeates everything that we do. And this is why things like our culture crew matter and it gets funding. It's why things like how we responded around not just COVID, but the social unrest in the company, all of it just centers around everyone actually really is important and valued within the organization.
Wow, that's great to hear. All I can say is the passion is coming through the screen from all of you. So our final question before we open it up to Q&A is, what advice do you all have for talent entering the workforce today? Or you can switch it up and just say talent in general, because we have people on the call today that are anywhere from entry level up to senior. So should I kick it back to Aya?
Yes. So I would say my advice is just to be really intentional. I feel like now with LinkedIn Easy Apply, it would be easy to just apply really broadly to a bunch of different companies, but I think that there are definitely different ways, as we've all touched on, that companies are responding right now. And I think that's definitely worth paying attention to, and really being intentional about where you want to be and where you will feel valued and where you will feel like you matter. And I think that would be my main piece of advice.
Thank you. Daria, do you want to go?
Yeah, I was actually going to come off mute. I think, I was thinking along those same lines. I say a lot to design with the end in mind, and it doesn't mean that you have to have everything answered along the way. Frankly, I think we should generally walk through life with more questions than answers. But I think if you can, again, with that idea of being intentional, think about what that desired outcome is for you in your career and start to take steps in that direction, and know that that next move doesn't have to be the dream job to be the thing that is going to propel you towards whatever that end goal is. And I think being prepared, I interview a lot of people, and I cannot overstate how important it is, especially today. I mean, there are no shortage of surfaces to learn about a company and its leadership or its customer and what they're up to. And so please take that time and do your homework.
Great advice. Mabel?
I have a lot, but I think the first thing is show up as yourself. I think that especially now more than ever, I think being exactly who you are with exactly how you want to show up, with your hair, your nails, or whatever, it's something that everybody is looking for. So if I would empower you, whatever you may have had to done in the past to kind of, as people of color, to pass or to get by, I can confidently say that it's challenging, but also it pays to be yourself. So take advantage of it.
Thank you. Great advice. Christopher or Kat?
Sure. Find or try and find, honestly, just a job that you like doing. I have had a few jobs that I could not stand waking up in the morning. I would just lay there until I was 30 minutes late and then show up an hour and a half late because I just didn't care. I was burnt out. I know the company didn't respect me or anyone really in there. And I was still young in my career at the time. And I thought, like, is this it? Is this what working is? Like, how do people do this for the rest of their lives? And it's like, well, you don't have to do this for the rest of your life if you didn't work for a place like this and you found a company and a job that you actually enjoyed doing. So it took me, unfortunately, a couple years to figure that out. But I think that looking back on it, it did actually teach me that as an employee or someone who may be entering, way down in the future, entering the job market again, to really understand that, you don't have to kill yourself for these companies. You work to live, you do not live to work. And if a company does not respect you as an individual or does not respect your work or is not helping you to advance or do better or whatever it is, then you don't have to stay there. You don't have to take it. And, I know when I was young again, I thought this is what you had to do, but you don't.
All right, we'll put an exclamation on that one. Thank you. And Kat, bring us home.
Yeah, I love what everybody has said. My advice to people is be more fearless. I have learned over the years, and it was like some hard learned lessons of fading into the background, of giving what was given, like accepting what was given to me. And that's not the way to approach your career. This is, as everyone said, we spend too much time working. You need to love what you do. You need to feel valued where you're doing it. And you need to be able to show up how you are. I'd say be intentional and be fearless around what you want, right? The fear, and myself included, held me back for a very long time, right? Of asking for what I wanted or questioning what was happening or, wondering why somebody else got a promotion and I didn't, or somebody got a project that I didn't. And you don't have to do that, right? If you're smart, you're capable, you're talented, you bring things to the table, companies want you. They want you. And particularly, I'd say, representing diverse points of view and perspective. It's been proven companies that have people who come and bring different points of view to the table have different and better financial outcomes than those that don't, because you're able to expose blind spots and things that other people haven't necessarily considered. You don't want a group of leaders leading an organization who all think the same. You're going to make mistakes with that way. So know and recognize your power and your value, and make sure that you're charging people to approach you accordingly.
Well, we could not have ended on a better note. So thank you. Thank you for that. Really, really impactful and quite timely for a lot of our members. So with that, we'd like to open up for questions. Justine, let us know if we have any questions in the chat, but we'd love for people to just come on live, come on and ask their questions.
There's a question from Jessica.
Okay.
Does Textile hire remote employees, or do they need to live in the LA area?
Maggie, do you want to jump in and take that, or Jerry?
I'm happy to jump in. Hello, everyone. I thought I would try to put on a little lip color, so I was ready just in case. But yeah, so as Jerry shared, I head up our talent acquisition function, and thank you all again for being here today. We're so excited about the partnership with Bragg and having an opportunity to connect with all of you. So as it relates to the question in the chat, we do hire remote employees. It depends on which portion of our workforce. And of course, this remains an ongoing conversation in light of the current work environment. I think right now, most of us are working remotely at Textile. I know that to be the case. And we'll continue to for some time. Safety is our top priority. So our technology workforce has a pretty significant volume of talent that is remote. So if that's a field of interest and you're just not able to make a move to Los Angeles, those are roles where we consistently have that the room and I'd say more consistently openness to hire remote talent there. But look, I think right now we're in a really interesting point in time, as I said, just related to COVID and what is sort of becoming the new normal as it relates to the workforce. And while we continue to discuss what that may look like for us at Textile, I certainly would encourage folks, whether relocation is in the cards for you or not. I encourage you to at least reach out, have the conversation. Would love to understand how your interests and aspirations align to our business needs and where there may be some opportunity there. So hopefully that helps to answer that question.
I think the other important thing to note is our Fabletics brand has about 50 retail stores right now and is continuing a retail store expansion. So there are organizations within the field for Fabletics, whether it's within a particular store manager, district regional manager, that also give us more coverage from a geographical standpoint.
Thank you. We do have another question. What type of opportunities are available in video production and photography? Do you hire full-time or freelance?
Both. I'm coming off to say both. I mean, I have two photographers on my team right now who are both full-time, and yet we still have needs for freelance and contract opportunities and partners as well. So the short answer is that, we love to build as much of our capabilities as we can in-house at Textile, and that doesn't stop at creative. And so, there are always, I think, ways to work with each of us. In fact, I just had a freelance videographer on a shoot that we had in New York because we were shooting remotely. So there's always a place for creative talent, especially.
Great, thank you. Are there other questions? And again, you can ask or put it in the chat. We have time for a few more.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney McKinney, and I am a junior at the University of South Carolina. And as a retail major, I'm just curious to know, what advice do you guys have for people in the retail industry who don't really know exactly what career field they want to do? Like for me, I went in thinking that I wanted to be a buyer, but as I take more classes, I realized like maybe my interest is more so with marketing or journalism. So I added a minor in PR and advertising. So I'm curious to know, like, I know you guys said when you were young, you don't really know like what part of the retail industry you want to do. And I have been told that it's not a lot of job opportunities there. So what advice do you have for people like me who are young and are just trying to figure out their way and like what works for them?
Your degree is only gonna get you your first job. And then after that, you can do whatever the heck you want. You know, right out of college, they look at your degree from what I've noticed. But then after that, you know, the experience that you learn and you take away from your first position, you can transfer anywhere. I mean, I transferred my skills as a publicist into, you know, social media. And I have no education experience whatsoever, but a couple months ago, I got accepted into USC's grad school for education. I've never studied education. I've never took a history class since like high school, but I was going to be a high school history teacher with no experience. So just keep that in mind. You know, your degree is only good for your first job after college. After that, the world is opened up to you.
I'll give some really quick advice that I hope is practical for you, Courtney. Thank you for your question. Based on the landscape and where everything is now, I would encourage you to think about the acquisition side of marketing. If you are curious about marketing, I think customer acquisition and performance marketing is a very important skill to have in general, and it is absolutely becoming a very hot talent that companies are looking for. So, you know, good luck to you. But that would be my 2 cents, Cap. I saw you come off mute though.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, another avenue for you to look at is companies that have, excuse me, rotational programs. Gap is one that comes to mind in their, I can't even remember what it's called now, retail management program, R&P program, where you come in, but you get to go through planning and merchandising and production and marketing. So you do a rotation. And at the end of that, then you ultimately get placed. So there are quite a few companies who have those types of programs. If you're unsure, you know you want to be in this industry, but you're not yet settled on where, places that give you an opportunity to sort of, you know, try it on for a period of time and then ultimately get placed could be another avenue for you to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. We do have another one. Are there any opportunities regarding marketing/content creation? And that's from Lawrence.
I'm looking at Maggie because you may know more across textile than any one of us does. Maggie, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
That is quite all right. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we hire across marketing consistently. So that is certainly an area that we are always looking for talent, pipelining. So certainly encourage you to check out our career site, apply to any roles of interest in that space. But we are, you know, always actively seeking out talent with marketing experience across a pretty wide breadth, including some content creation as well.
Oh, we do have another question from Darlene. Is Textile currently building out its social responsibility programs? If so, is there focus on the vendors/manufacturers?
Yeah, I can take this one. Absolutely. It's actually a fairly well-established program. So we bring in tens of millions of units of inventory across all of our portfolio of brands. And one of the great things about being part of a larger portfolio of different brands is we're able to build out expert services that can really support all the different business units. And corporate social responsibility, vendor compliance is one of those areas that resides within our supply chain area. And so we have standards that we expect our vendors to meet, not just respect to obviously the product they produce for us, but the conditions in which their workers are living, the amount of wages that they're paying them. And we're really, very careful in monitoring that to make sure, that they're hitting those standards. And one of the things that we're very focused on now that just recently kicked off earlier this year is around sustainability and building out really an effort to look across all of our brands around what are we doing with respect to sustainability. I think we all know the apparel industry is sort of known as being a polluter. And so we're very focused on from everything with garment production all the way to packaging and hang tags and, everything in between. How do we make sure that we're leaving a positive imprint behind on this earth? And so that's something, again, just another example of how we sort of flex to what the opportunity and the need is. And so I expect to see, a lot more coming out with respect to our efforts around sustainability.
So I have a question for the group, based on tonight's event, and I know you've given us a lot of great information about textile. If you could just share generally with the group what, there's a lot that's happened in the business over the last 6 to 8 months, and I'm sure your business has been pretty strong and stable, but there's been a lot of opportunity. Where would you say today the opportunity is for someone who's, looking for employment? Just where is the opportunity right now in textile?
Happy to jump in there, but welcome any of the leaders who are hiring in their organization. To your point, Sean, we've been very fortunate that we're working at an organization and really across our entire portfolio of brands that has performed quite well this year. And as a result, we're lucky to be hiring. And so to your question, because we have our own proprietary tech stack, and we also do our own in-house marketing, creative design, we therefore have an incredibly expansive, list of types of jobs that we hire for. So I wouldn't say there's one particular opportunity area. We are hiring everything from engineers and data scientists to designers and marketing talent alike.
Yeah, I think Maggie's dog started barking in the background. But yeah, I think to build on that, retail has gone through a fundamental seismic shift. It was happening before COVID-19. It has only been exacerbated because of COVID-19, right? And so direct to consumer brands, e-commerce if you're going to go into retail, if I give you one piece of advice, really focus on that side of the house. And I think as Daria was saying, on the marketing side, that's about performance marketing, right? What that means is, as a direct-to-consumer brand, we have to get people on our website, right? So unless you know our website and you are typing in our name or our URL directly, then we are paying someone through some mechanism to get someone to click on our site, right? Mm-hmm. So we spend a tremendous amount of money acquiring people to come to our websites. That means then the data, the analytics, the ability to analyze what's working, what's not working, so that we can be more efficient in our investment is incredibly important for us, incredibly important for us. So I think when you're thinking about e-commerce and direct to consumer, that's one piece of it. What Mabel and her team do in site merchandising, it's not a store that you can go into and I can scan and sort of see everything all at once. You're coming onto a website. I've got to navigate you around to make sure you're finding product that's going to appeal to you. That is site merchandising, right? Different than in a store environment where you walk into a front table in a retail store and you're like, oh, I see what they're standing behind because I can see how much inventory they're dedicating to this idea. You can't do that online, right? Every single item is its own little picture on a grid on a website. So how we navigate people and get them to a product detail page, which is where you really see, here are all the sizes and the colors, and you get more information about a product, is ultimately important, right? If we paid to get you onto the site, guess what I don't want you to do? Bounce after hitting 2 pages. So I think when you think about where retail is going, data analytics, really understanding how customers shop a website, and then what does that mean in terms of what you need to do to manage the business and manage how they're experiencing your brand, is incredibly important, right? And retail, you know, I've been in this business, like I said, a long time, and I've worked for amazing merchants, right? I worked under Mickey Drexler when he was leading the Helmet Gap, and it was all about, you know, khaki swing. Those days of having someone play that kind of role and have that vision are gone. They are absolutely gone. There's so much data and information that you have to understand how to leverage that. It's not just about having great eye for product and being able to spot a trend and knowing how to put an outfit together. It's much more sophisticated than that now. And that's the one place that I, quite personally, for someone who's been in this business for a really long time, actually find super exciting about what's going on, because I'm constantly learning and being challenged, because how customers shop and what they expect is continuing to evolve.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I know there were a couple of questions we were unable to get to, so please accept our apologies, but we will take a look at them. Some of them seem to just have questions directly about applying for roles, so we can certainly partner with Maggie and the team to ensure that we get the follow-up to all of you. So before we turn it over to Jerry, who has a few closing remarks, we'd like to just give a real a big thank you to all of our panelists today, and a special shout out to Textile for all that you're doing and for your partnership with Bragg. So please know we value and appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
So
everybody for your participation. Thank you to the panel. Thank you to Bragg. Thank you all for coming out. You can find our career page at textilefashiongroup.com. You can also find us and all of our brands on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. So good night, everyone. Stay safe and stay well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good job. Good job.
Great job. Thank you.
Fantastic.